This video is going to be one where I give my thoughts on the different wheel sizes in mountain biking right now. And this is kind of a conclusion to another video I made that was getting pretty long, so I'm making two videos. The other video I did a really in-depth analysis between different lap times and ride characteristics and feel kind of out on the trail between a 27.5 Giant Anthem and a couple different 29er full suspensions. So let me give my thoughts on wheel sizes right now. First of all, I did my analysis because it's the beginning of the year and I just wanted to make sure that I'm on the right bike and I feel good about my bike. I ride a Giant Anthem 27.5, which I got on last year after being on full suspension 29ers for several years. I just really love the way the 27.5s handled. And so I wanted to do another comparison and just kind of document it for you guys, because I know a lot of people out there are wondering, you know, the difference between 27.5 and 29. 26, as most of us know, are pretty much history in all kinds of riding, except for maybe some downhill and free ride stuff. So our choices now are 29 and 27.5. With this comparison that I did, I'm going to honestly say that there was no clear winner. They both have different characteristics that is going to depend on what you're looking for, and I'm going to give you those characteristics in a minute to help you make a decision if you're looking to buy a bike. Now, some companies are going all in on 27.5, like Giant, and as of today, it's almost like they're phasing out 29, which doesn't make sense to me. Because for cross country especially, 29ers are still a very big player in the game. And you know, another reason that I did this video is because I recently looked at a few different buyer guides and I didn't see hardly any 27.5s, especially in cross country, or particularly in cross country. All the cross country stuff was 29. So you know, that's why I wanted to get back out and just make sure that I'm on the right bike for me. So my point in saying that is, it mystifies me that companies wouldn't make 27.5 cross-country bikes, and it also would, in the same way, mystify me that a company would not make 29er cross-countries, especially in hardtails. Now, you know, right now Giant still makes some hardtail 29ers, and they still make the Anthem 29, but they don't have very many models, so it's like they're really going all in. Now, I love my Giant Anthem 27.5, and as you're going to hear me say in a minute, it's the bike that I'm going to keep after doing all of this analysis. Now, when I did this analysis a few years ago, there was a clear winner, and to me, 29 beat 26 for cross country. It was only about a year ago that I finally got completely off 26 for my all mountain and trail type riding, but for cross country, 29 definitely beat 26. But the differences between 29 and 27.5 are much more subtle. The gap is more narrow. So let me talk about the different characteristics of each bike, and again, help you guys who are looking into buying a bike and wondering which one to get. So 27.5, the advantages of 27.5. The main one is they're quick and agile. And as I said in my other video when I was kind of out on the trail doing these analysis, the more I jumped on the 27.5 and jumped back and forth between the 29 and 27.5, the 27.5 just has such an agile feel. You feel like it's almost got telepathic steering. You can dive into a corner quicker, and you can accelerate out of a corner quicker, and you can just get into a cornering flow, is the best way I can describe it, that is super fun. And I lower my center of gravity a lot. I kind of start the corner with my head and get that real low, and just doing that from corner to corner is a blast. Now, I will say that the trails that we ride here on the East Coast are a lot more twisty and turny than trails that I've ridden out west. So that's going to be a big part in which bike you choose, and I'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. So again, 29, they're quick and agile. They also accelerate quick. I noticed a pretty big difference in how fast I could get back up to speed coming out of a corner with a 27.5. So the more twists and turns you have in your trail, or another way to say it, the more often you brake, I think the more advantage the 27.5 is going to have, because after you do brake and you come out of a corner, it's going to accelerate quicker. So that's a big advantage of the 27.5. And again, in my other video, one of the bikes that I rode was a Niner Jet 9 RDO 5-star build. This is a $10,000 mountain bike, and it's got carbon wheels. Just, I mean, it is a sweet bike. Niner makes some awesome bikes, and this is their flagship for the Jet 9. Even with the carbon wheels, the Stans No Tube Valors, which is on that bike, I still noticed that my 27.5 got back up to speed quicker. And I have the Podium wheel sets, which is also a very light wheel set, but they're also about half the price of the carbons. So even on a bike that had a really light wheel set, I did notice that the 27.5 got back up to speed quicker. And by the way, my Anthem 27.5 is just a little over 24 pounds, and the Jet 9 RDO that I was riding was 23.2 pounds, so a little over 23. There's about a pound difference. The lightness, and when I'm talking about weight, let me talk about the advantage of the 27.5, and that is typically they're going to be lighter. So with an equal build, with equal value wheel sets, equal value components and frame, probably you're going to get a lighter bike, between half a pound up to maybe a pound and a half to maybe 2 pounds lighter for a 27.5, again with the same components. Now my Anthem 27.5, the retail value of all the components and wheels and everything is about $5,000. So it's about half the price of the Niner that I was riding. And you know, you can get, I think, a really good value in 27.5 because the bike is going to be lighter. Now, my Anthem is an aluminum frame, which I really like. Giant makes a really good aluminum frame. I've owned a lot of carbon bikes in the past. My road bike and my cross bike are both carbon. So you know, I'm very familiar with carbon, and I really like my aluminum frame. So again, pretty good value with 27.5 if weight is an issue for you. Fun factor, this is a big one for me. Even if my lap times were the same on both bikes, which they were very close, and when I said there's no clear winner, with lap times, I don't think there really is a clear winner, because on the straightaways, on straight trails, the 29 is going to be faster. Like I said, the more you brake, the more corners, 27.5 is going to be faster. Now again, if you go back and watch this video that I made when I was out on the trail doing lap time comparisons, overall the 27.5 was faster. And the first day I did the testing, the 29er was a little bit faster because there wasn't hardly any turns on the section of trail that I did. When I got back onto what's more normal for what we ride, the 27.5 was generally faster than the 29, but not by a lot. So if the lap times were not different, I still like the 27.5s for the fun factor. If you're one of those people that just likes, you know, drifting your tires in the corner, you know, again, getting into a kind of a cornering flow and just sprinting out of corners, just riding aggressively, 27.5s are a lot of fun. Riders who want to be on full suspension, I'm a full suspension guy, and when you get into 29ers with full suspension, the bikes start to get pretty long. So for 27.5s, I think you can really get on a good full suspension bike without having it feel too long. Like I said, the 27.5s are really fast on tight trails. The tighter the trail, I think the more advantage a 27.5 is going to have. Something that may or may not play into it depending on how big you are, is flex. Because the frames are a little bit more compact, the wheels are a little bit smaller, you're probably going to have less flex on a 27.5. And now, for, like I said, for value, that's good because you may be able to be on an aluminum frame and be able to have a bike with less flex. And finally, one thing, and this kind of has to do with the cornering, but the 27.5s have a lower handlebar height. The 29 wheel being so much taller, the head tube is taller, which means the handlebars are higher. And if you're really cornering hard, it's nice to be kind of down low. So that's another big advantage of a 27.5. Now let me go into the advantages of a 29er. First of all, and this is at the top of the list for me, is how smooth they ride. If your riding style is you just like to get out and cruise, you don't care about real quick acceleration or riding super aggressively, but you want a bike that just flows well, go with the 29. Because over the choppy stuff, if your trails have lots of little rocks and just choppy, or lots of roots or lots of rock gardens, the 29er is going to be smoother. And it's also going to be a little bit more stable. 29ers have a pretty long wheelbase, especially the full suspensions, and the chainstays are longer, which make for a bike that's a little less agile in the corners, but it does make for a bike that's more stable. And if you're going over rough terrain, that may be important to you. Obviously, better momentum over obstacles. And this has been talked about so much, so I'm not going to really go too far into it, but 29ers, when you hit an obstacle, the tire just rolls over it. Again, if you like kind of throwing the bike around and picking it up over obstacles instead of just letting the bike hit it and go over it, that's going to be less of an advantage for you on a 29. But if you just kind of just want to ride, let the bike get over stuff, 29ers can't be beat for that. Fast on open trails. 29ers, the more wide open your trails are, the faster they're going to roll and the easier they're going to roll. Now, again, this difference isn't near as pronounced as I noticed on 26 comparing it to 29. 27.5s still roll very well and they maintain really good momentum, just not quite as good as a 29. So they're still fast on open trails, don't get me wrong. When I hit straightaways on a 27.5, I was able to just, sprint up to speed real quick and hold it pretty well. But a 29er, once you get it up to speed, is going to require a little bit less effort to keep that momentum. So again, if your trails are really straight, this is going to have a big advantage for you. I still think for hardtails, 29, and I'm going to go a little bit more into the different types of riding style here in a second, but for hardtails, I think 29 is the way to go. Unless you're really short. My wife is 5'2", and she rides a 29er. It's an extra small 9er, and she loves it. Again, I think if you want to go for hardtail, either because you like them or for budget reasons or whatever, 29ers have the advantage. The choice, I think, is still, the number of choices is still a big advantage right now for 29. I don't know why, but a lot of companies haven't really started to go with 27.5s for cross country. Now for all mountain and trail riding, almost every company now has a 27.5, and you couldn't say that 3 years ago. But for today, you still, for cross country, are somewhat limited in your choices for 27.5. So if you're loyal to a particular shop or a particular brand, you may have some limited choices. So that's an advantage for 29. Finally, pedal strike is a little bit of an issue on my Anthem 27.5. Now, I can't speak for other 27.5s, but for 29s, you can have less pedal strikes because I measured the difference between the ground and the pedal when the pedal was in the lowest position, and on my 27.5, it was a little over a centimeter lower than the 29, and I did that on the Niner Jet 9 RDO, that comparison. So, it's something that's a trade-off. It's like anything with mountain biking. one advantage one way will be a disadvantage in another way. For example, head angle. Head angles, the more slack the head angle, the better it's going to descend, the more stable it's going to be. But the front wheel is going to wander around the climb. So it's a trade-off. It's the pedal strikes. The lower your bottom bracket, the better the bike's going to handle. The flow and the feel of my 27.5 is awesome because of the bottom bracket being low. That's one of the reasons. So you know that may be an issue for you as well. So that's an advantage of a 29. And now let me wrap this up by talking about the different kind of segments of mountain biking and which bike I feel like is better. And let me start with one that's pretty easy. And I'm going to rule out extreme downhill and free ride. That one, well, let me talk about it. So with 27.5 is just starting to come on the scene with downhill. I'm starting to see more and more downhill bikes with 27.5 because they're going to be a little bit faster than a 26 on a lot of different types of courses. For free ride, I'm not seeing 27.5, and those are 7-inch travel bikes. So I think over the next few years we're going to see some change and mix up in that. But for most of us ride either kind of all mountain type riding, which is going to be bikes that are between maybe 140 to 160 millimeters of travel, maybe up to 170. 27.5 is pretty much going to be the standard, and I just can't really recommend someone getting on a really long travel 29er. One of the best ones that I've seen is the Specialized Enduro. They have done some engineering marvel on that thing to get the chainstays so short. I have not ridden one yet. I really want to. But from everything that I've read and heard about that bike, it's probably one of the best longer travel 29ers. But for most people, I think that a 27.5 is going to be your wheel size for bikes that are designed for rough terrain, what I call aggressive trail riding, and all mountain. I break trail riding up into two different segments: longer travel or more aggressive, and then shorter travel bikes. So for long travel on trail bikes, 27.5. For shorter travel trail bikes, I'm going to say that 27.5 and 29 are probably both going to be about equal, and it's going to depend on a lot of those characteristics that I mentioned just a few minutes ago. I think those ones that I mentioned for cross country carry over into the short travel trail bike. So bikes around that 120 millimeter travel range, whether you go 27.5 or 29 is going to depend on what your riding style is and the characteristics that you're looking for in a bike. And I'm not going to rehash those again, but again, if you're a more aggressive rider, I think you're going to go 27.5. I have a Giant Trance 27.5 that's 140 millimeters of travel, and I love that bike. I've ridden a lot of trail bikes over the years, and it's a great bike. I did own a Niner Rip 9, which had 120 millimeters of travel, and that was kind of the older version. I think the back was maybe 110 millimeters. That was an awesome bike, one that I would recommend if you want 29 for the trail bike category that's shorter travel. So again, short travel trail bikes is going to depend on what you're looking for. Cross country, it's going to depend on all those characteristics that I mentioned before. Again, like I said in the beginning, I think most bike companies need to make both. They need to make 27.5 and 29 because choices are good, and that's what I've learned from doing this test, with there being no absolute clear winner. That it's great to have choices in our bike riding. I don't think a company should dictate what kind of bike we should be on. I think we need to figure it out for ourselves. So hopefully this video has done that, kind of helped you guys maybe figure out a little bit better which bike is good for you, because again, the choices are good and the choice should be yours. So hopefully I've helped you do that. So hey, thanks for watching, and again, if you haven't seen my other video and you've got some time, it's about almost 29 minutes long, and you want to go back and kind of watch my in-depth analysis of lap times and ride characteristics from the trail, go back and watch that. So thanks for watching.